She came to announce her $10 million empire on her birthday, but was shocked to see her husband. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to subscribe to Valentino Love Stories, where every heartbeat tells a tale of love, loss, and second chances. Now, imagine this. You build your dream from scratch, every sleepless night, every heartbreak, every prayer finally paying off. And on your birthday, you come home ready to share your triumph with the man you love. Only to find him, your husband, with another woman. A pregnant woman. The Atlanta skyline shimmered under a velvet sky, each skyscraper lit like a candle celebrating her victory. Inside a black limousine, Amara Bennett sat still, poised, powerful, and beautiful, the kind of woman who had clawed her way out of struggle and turned pain into an empire. At 32, she was no longer the soft-spoken woman who once worked 3 jobs to support her husband's dreams. She was now the CEO of Bennett Organics, a multi-million-dollar wellness and skincare brand built from her kitchen counter and a stubborn belief that she was meant for more. And tonight, her birthday, she was going to surprise her husband. 2 years ago, Amara had left Atlanta with nothing but hope and a business plan. She'd promised Liam Prescott, her husband, that she'd return stronger, that everything she was doing was for them. Their last words to each other echoed in her heart. "Just don't forget me, Mara." "Never," she had said. But somewhere between the long nights and the relentless work, communication faded. Calls went unanswered. Messages went cold. Still, she believed. She'd come home to tell him that they'd made it, together. As her limousine pulled into the glowing driveway of Maison Loom, Atlanta's most luxurious rooftop restaurant, she smiled. This was where they once dreamed of celebrating when they made it. And tonight, she had made it, $10 million richer, ready to reclaim her love. Miss Bennett, her driver corrected awkwardly, "Happy birthday." "Thank you, Jerome," she said softly, adjusting her sleek gold gown. "It's Mrs. Bennett. Always." The maitre d' recognized her instantly, bowing slightly. "Ms. Bennett. Mr. Prescott is waiting for you inside the private lounge." Her heart skipped. He's here. He remembered her birthday. Maybe, just maybe, fate had circled back around. The soft hum of jazz filled the air as she entered the lounge. Crystal chandeliers glowed above linen-draped tables. Her heels clicked softly across the marble floor as she rehearsed the words she'd waited years to say. "Liam, I did it. We're finally free." But then, her steps slowed. Her smile faltered. There he was, Liam Prescott, the man she'd crossed oceans of ambition for. His once boyish charm now tempered by quiet maturity. But he wasn't alone. A woman sat across from him. Blonde. Radiant. Laughing softly. And beneath her silk dress, a rounded belly. Amara's breath caught in her throat. She stopped just a few feet away, frozen. Her clutch slipped from her fingers, landing on the marble floor with a dull thud. Liam's eyes widened. His face drained of color. "Amara," he whispered, standing slowly. For a moment, no one moved. Amara's voice trembled, but her gaze stayed sharp. "Who is she, Liam?" The other woman blinked, startled. I'm Claire," she said hesitantly. "Don't say it." Amara's tone cut through the air like glass. Liam took a step forward. "Amara, it's not what you think." She laughed bitterly, a sound that didn't belong to joy. "Not what I think. I came here to tell you I built our dream, Liam. $10 million. The company, the brand, everything I promised you." Her voice cracked, tears glistening under the chandeliers. "And you're here, starting a new family?" The room fell silent. Even the jazz from the speakers seemed to hush. "Amara, please." But she didn't let him finish. She turned and walked out, her heels clicking in rhythm with her breaking heart. Outside, the wind cut through her dress. Cameras flashed as reporters cheered her name, calling out congratulations for her business success. None of it mattered. Her world had already shattered. She climbed into her limousine, whispering to herself, "You built an empire, Amara. Don't crumble now." But as the door shut, a tear escaped, tracing down her flawless cheek. What would you do if the person you loved most betrayed you at the very moment you wanted to celebrate your success? Would you walk away, or demand the truth? Tell us in the comments below. The next morning, Amara stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows of her penthouse, overlooking the city that now belonged to her name. On the counter lay unopened champagne, balloons from investors, and a dozen congratulatory texts. But her eyes were fixed on one message. Please meet me. You deserve to hear the truth. Liam. She pressed her fingers to her temple, heart torn between anger and longing. Truth. She whispered bitterly. You had 2 years to tell me the truth. And yet her heart, the same one that had loved him through distance and silence, refused to harden completely. Amara picked up her phone, hesitated, then called her driver. Jerome, she said softly, take me to him. Because sometimes, even the strongest queens need to face their ghosts before they can rule their kingdoms. The afternoon sun spilled gold across Atlanta's skyline as Amara's limousine pulled up to a quiet suburb on the city's edge, a place far from the glamour she now lived in. Her palms were damp. Her heart, traitorous, beat faster with every breath. She had built a company worth millions, yet somehow, the idea of facing Liam Prescott made her feel small again. When she stepped out, the scent of blooming magnolias brushed against her. The old oak trees that lined the cul-de-sac whispered memories of simpler times. Their tiny apartment, late-night ramen, promises made over candlelight when power bills went unpaid. She stood in front of a modest brick house. His house. The door opened before she could knock. Liam stood there, tall, handsome, and heartbreakingly familiar. His eyes, once bright with dreams, now held shadows. He looked like a man carrying a burden too heavy for one lifetime. Amara, he said quietly, voice cracking. Don't, she whispered. Don't say my name like you still have the right. He flinched, then stepped aside. Please. Just come in. 5 minutes. That's all I ask. She hesitated. Every instinct screamed to leave. But she had questions that burned like acid in her chest. She walked in. The house smelled faintly of cinnamon and lavender, warm, lived in. Framed photos lined the mantel. Amara's eyes darted to one of Liam standing with that same blonde woman, Claire. She was smiling, a hand on her swollen belly. Anger flared hot in her chest. So this is where you live now? With her. Liam sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Amara, please sit. Let me explain before you walk away again. She didn't sit. Her voice trembled with rage. You don't get to talk about walking away. I left to build a future for us. For you, Liam. And you, her voice cracked. You built a family with someone else. He closed his eyes. It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is, she snapped. Because I saw you holding her. I saw her belly. What am I supposed to think? Liam's voice dropped to a whisper. She's not my wife, Amara. She's my sister-in-law. Amara froze. You're what? Liam swallowed hard, his jaw tightening. Claire is my brother's widow. You remember Nathan. Amara blinked, her anger flickering into confusion. Your brother who died last year. He nodded slowly. Before he passed, Claire found out she was pregnant. She had no one else. No parents, no family. She moved in with me a few months ago so I could help her. She's carrying Nathan's child. Amara's lips parted, the words catching in her throat. Her mind replayed that night, the tenderness in Liam's gesture, the way his hand had rested on Claire's stomach. It hadn't been romantic, it had been protective. Her shoulders trembled. Why didn't you tell me? His voice cracked. Because you stopped answering, Amara. You were so busy, interviews, conferences, photo shoots. Every time I tried, your assistant said you were unavailable. You think I didn't watch your success from afar? You think I wasn't proud? But I thought. He looked down, pain etched across his face. I thought you'd outgrown me. Silence. Amara stared at him, tears welling despite her best efforts. Her pride warred with her love, both fighting for space in her chest. You thought I outgrew you, she whispered. Liam, everything I did was for us. Every long night, every dollar I fought for, I wanted to build a life where you didn't have to struggle anymore. He stepped closer, his voice low. And all I ever wanted was you, Mara. Not the money, not the company. Just you. Her breath hitched as he gently took her trembling hands in his. For the first time in 2 years, the air between them wasn't filled with ambition or anger, just truth. But then his next words cut deep. When Nathan died, I broke. I couldn't be there for you, not the way a husband should. And when you left again after the funeral, I thought maybe that was the universe telling me to let you go. Her tears fell freely now. You never lost me, Liam. You just stopped looking. They stood there in silence, years of pain unspoken between them. Then from the hallway, Claire's soft voice broke the moment. Liam? Everything okay? She appeared in the doorway, smiling gently, her presence almost angelic. Hi, Amara. I'm so sorry for how that must have looked the other night. I had no idea you were coming. Amara wiped her cheeks quickly. It's okay. I just didn't understand. Claire smiled softly, then reached out a hand. I've heard so much about you. Liam talks about you like you hung the moon. That broke her. Completely. Her heart swelled with something deeper than love, forgiveness. For the first time since that awful night, she smiled faintly. It's nice to finally meet you, Claire. If you were Amara, could you forgive Liam after such a misunderstanding, or would you walk away and never look back? Let us know in the comments below. As evening fell, Amara stood on the porch, ready to leave. The air felt lighter now, her anger melted into quiet reflection. Liam walked her to the car. So what now, he asked, his voice hopeful but uncertain. Amara turned to him, the wind tugging at her hair. Now, she said softly. Now we start over. But not as the same people we were before. He smiled, a small, aching, hopeful smile. I'll take that. The engine started, and as the car pulled away, Amara looked out the window at the house fading in the distance. Her heart still hurt, but this time, it was the kind of hurt that healed. The next few days blurred like a watercolor painting for Amara Bennett. She threw herself back into work, product launches, board meetings, endless press appearances, but every smile she offered felt like a lie. Liam Prescott lingered in her thoughts like a melody she couldn't forget. Even when she tried to bury him under the noise of her empire, he found his way into her quiet moments, the spaces between phone calls and power lunches, where her heart whispered what her pride couldn't. It had been 5 days since she saw him. 5 days since she'd stood on that porch and promised to start over. But how did you start over when your heart was still trying to remember what safety felt like? On the 6th day, Liam called. Amara, his voice said softly through the phone. I know you're busy, but can we have dinner? No pressure. Just talk. Her instinct said no. Her heart said yes. And that night, she found herself walking into a small, dimly lit restaurant tucked away in Midtown Atlanta, the kind of place they used to go before money and distance built walls between them. Liam stood when she entered. No tuxedo, no grand gestures, just jeans, a gray shirt, and those same steady blue eyes that once made her believe love could survive anything. Still prefer the corner booth, he said, smiling nervously. She couldn't help but laugh. Some habits die hard. They sat. At first, the conversation was awkward, all polite nods and cautious silences. Then, slowly, laughter started to slip in through the cracks. They talked about the early days, their first apartment, how she used to burn every attempt at homemade pasta, how he once pawned his guitar to buy her a birthday gift. And then, as dessert came, Liam leaned forward and said quietly, You know, I always believed you'd build something great. I just didn't think success would build a wall between us. Amara looked down at her hands. I didn't either. I thought once I made it, we'd finally have peace. But somehow, success made me lonelier. He reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. Then let's stop running from what's real. Her breath caught. And what's real, Liam? You. Me. Still wanting each other, even after everything. For a moment, the world held still. Outside the restaurant, rain began to fall, slow and steady. Liam walked her to her car. Neither of them wanted the night to end. Liam, she began softly, you know this doesn't mean everything's okay overnight, right? He nodded. I don't want perfect. I just want honest. And before she could respond, he stepped closer, not forcefully, not demanding, but like someone asking for permission to remember what love felt like. She didn't stop him. Their lips met, slow, hesitant, aching with the weight of lost time. It wasn't the fiery passion of youth. It was the quiet recognition of souls that had found their way home after wandering too long. When they finally pulled apart, Amara's voice trembled. "This scares me." Liam smiled faintly. "Good. Love should scare us. That's how we know it's real." For a few blissful weeks, things began to heal. Liam spent evenings helping her cook in the penthouse, their laughter echoing through the marble kitchen like old music rediscovered. Claire visited occasionally, her belly growing, always reminding Amara that life could still bloom after heartbreak. But peace, for people in the spotlight, never lasted long. It started with a phone call from Amara's publicist, Janelle, early one morning. "Amara, have you seen the blogs?" She frowned, sitting up in bed. "What blogs?" "Someone leaked photos of you and Liam, the dinner, the kiss, everything. They're saying you're back with your cheating ex-husband, who left you for a pregnant woman. It's all over social media." Her chest tightened. "What? That's not true. He never cheated." "I know," Janelle said, voice urgent. "But that's not how the internet works. We need a statement, fast." Amara ran a hand through her curls, panic flaring. "A statement?" "Janelle, I can't throw Liam under the bus." "I won't." "Then they'll do it for you," Janelle warned. "The board's nervous. Investors are calling. You're the face of empowerment, Amara. They can't afford scandal." Within hours, hashtags trended. Hashtag Amara Bennett scandal. Hashtag Empire and infidelity. Hashtag pregnant mistress rumors. Her inbox flooded with reporters demanding comment. Her company's shares dropped by 6%. And that afternoon, during a board meeting, the chairman's words cut deep. "Ms. Bennett, the public perception of our leadership must remain pristine. We recommend distancing yourself from Mr. Prescott until the matter clears." Her jaw tightened. "You want me to choose between my company and the man I love?" The room fell silent. "Yes," the chairman said finally. "For the sake of your brand." Amara's chest burned. Every part of her screamed against it, but she also knew how fragile reputation could be in a world where image was currency. That evening, Liam arrived at her penthouse, concern in his eyes. "I saw the news," he said. "You okay?" She turned away, her voice breaking. "They're saying I have to cut ties with you." He froze. "What?" "It's business, Liam. They think the rumors will hurt the company. My investors are panicking." His expression darkened. "So what, you just walk away?" Again. Tears filled her eyes. "Don't do that. Don't make it sound like I want this." He stepped closer. "Then fight for it, Amara. Fight for us." "I have fought for everything my entire life," she shouted, voice trembling. "My name, my dream, my respect, and every time I choose love, I lose it all." Liam's face softened. "And every time you walk away, you lose yourself." The silence that followed was unbearable. Finally, she whispered, "Maybe we both need space. Until this dies down." Liam's eyes glistened. "You don't fix storms by hiding from the rain." Then he left, quietly, without slamming the door, which somehow hurt even more. The next week was chaos. News anchors debated her integrity. Bloggers called her a hypocrite. Even her loyal fans began questioning if her Queen energy speeches about strength were just another brand stunt. Amara smiled for cameras, spoke at charity galas, signed autographs, all while dying inside. Every night, she stared at her phone, tempted to call Liam, to tell him she missed him, that none of the success mattered without him. But pride kept her fingers still. Until one night, a breaking news alert flashed across her screen. Claire Prescott hospitalized after pregnancy complications. Sources say her brother-in-law, Liam Prescott, remains at her bedside. Amara's heart sank. Without thinking, she grabbed her keys and ran out the door. When she arrived, the hospital corridors were quiet, sterile and cold. Liam sat in the waiting area, his head in his hands. "Liam," she whispered. He looked up, eyes red. "She's stable now. The baby's okay. It was close, though." She sat beside him, silent. After a long pause, he spoke. "You didn't have to come." Amara swallowed hard. "I know. But I wanted to." He sighed. "I was angry, you know. Not because of the media, but because I thought we were finally getting somewhere. And then you disappeared again. She closed her eyes. I didn't disappear. I was scared. Scared I'd lose everything I worked for if I chose you. And did you? She looked at him, tears glistening. No. I just lost you. That broke him. Without a word, he reached out, pulling her into his arms. For a long moment, they stayed like that, two people holding each other not because it solved anything, but because it was the only thing that made sense. When she finally spoke, her voice was a whisper. I don't care what the world says anymore. I'm done living for headlines. Liam smiled faintly, pressing his forehead against hers. Then let's write our own story. Would you risk your entire career and reputation for love, even if the world turned against you? Thought Balloon, tell us in the comments below, because Amara's next choice will define everything. That night, Amara made a decision. She called a press conference for the following morning, one that would change everything. Morning light spilled through the tall glass windows of Amara Bennett's penthouse like a gentle reminder that today, nothing would ever be the same again. Her team had begged her to cancel. Her PR manager warned that this could destroy everything she had built. But Amara wasn't the scared woman who once walked away from love to save her image. She was the woman who had faced betrayal, loss, gossip, and still stood tall. She looked at her reflection in the mirror, elegant navy suit, soft curls framing her face, eyes steady and resolute. Liam's voice echoed in her mind, you don't fix storms by hiding from the rain. She smiled faintly. Then let it rain. By noon, every major network was live outside Bennett Global headquarters. Hundreds of cameras pointed at the stage. Fans, journalists, critics, everyone waited to see if the Queen of Empowerment would defend herself or crumble. The moment she stepped out, a wave of flashes blinded her. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding. Good afternoon, she began, her voice calm but firm. I know there's been a lot of talk about my personal life. About who I am, what I stand for, and the choices I've made. Today, I'm not here to defend rumors. I'm here to speak my truth. The crowd quieted. I am in love with Liam Prescott, she said clearly. Gasps rippled through the audience. I loved him before the world knew my name. I loved him when I was broke, when I was lost, when I had nothing. And even after pain, after betrayal, after years apart, I found that love doesn't vanish just because people think it should. Her eyes softened. He did not cheat on me. The woman you've all seen him with is his late brother's wife, and she is family. She's expecting a child who will never know their father. So if compassion is a crime, then let the world judge us both. A murmur spread through the crowd. Some reporters lowered their cameras, visibly moved. Amara continued, her voice rising with emotion. I've spent my whole career teaching women to be strong, to never let fear silence their truth. But strength doesn't mean isolation. Power means nothing if it costs your heart. Tears glistened in her eyes. I built a $10 million empire, but without love, it was just a kingdom of glass. So if I have to rebuild it all again, I'll do it, with the man I love beside me. She paused, breathing deeply. That's my truth. Take it, twist it, post it, but I'll never apologize for loving openly. Then, without taking any questions, she stepped away from the podium. The world stood silent. By evening, clips of Amara's speech flooded every platform. Hashtag Amara Speaks Truth trended worldwide. Support poured in, from fans, celebrities, even rival CEOs. The same investors who once doubted her called back, begging to keep her on board. But Amara didn't care about the business calls. She only cared about one thing, or rather one person. She drove through the night to the small suburban house where Liam stayed. When he opened the door, he looked stunned. Amara. She smiled softly. I told the world about us. He blinked. You what? I told them I love you. And that I'm not hiding anymore. Liam stared at her, disbelief melting into emotion. You did that for me? She shook her head gently. No. I did it for us. He stepped closer, voice trembling. You could have lost everything. She smiled. Maybe I finally realized. You were everything. He exhaled shakily, then pulled her into his arms. This time, there was no hesitation. No guilt. No cameras. Just two hearts colliding, finally free of the noise. They kissed like the first sunrise after a long storm, slow, deep, full of promise. A soft breeze swept across the gardens of Amara's new headquarters, Bennett and Prescott Ventures, a joint company she and Liam co-founded. It had been exactly 1 year since that press conference. Amara stood on the balcony, watching the city glow below. Her empire had grown 3 times larger, not just in money, but in purpose. She had launched a foundation for single mothers and widows, inspired by Claire's journey. And speaking of Claire, she walked into the office with a smile, holding a baby boy. Amara, he keeps smiling every time you talk on the phone. I think you're his favorite aunt. Amara laughed, taking the child in her arms. Hey there, little warrior. Liam entered moments later, wrapping an arm around her waist. Board meeting's done. You ready to go celebrate your birthday, Mrs. Prescott? She grinned. You mean our anniversary? He laughed softly. Still can't believe both happened on the same day. She gazed at him lovingly. A year ago, I thought my life ended on my birthday. Now, it feels like it just began. He kissed her forehead. That's because you stopped living for the world, and started living for love. Amara smiled, eyes glistening as she looked out over the city, her empire, her heart, her home. Happy birthday to me, she whispered. And to the love that found its way back. Narrator, soft tone, they said she had to choose between her crown and her heart, but sometimes, love makes you the queen of both. The morning sun rose gently over San Francisco Bay, spilling gold over the skyline, the same city where Amara Bennett once built an empire from her living room and lost herself trying to protect it. Now, that same city reflected something far more precious: peace. It had been 2 years since that unforgettable birthday, the day she faced the world, stood for truth, and reclaimed her heart. Amara's foundation, Hearts Rebuilt, had become one of the largest empowerment organizations in the country. Every week, women from across the U.S. shared their stories of heartbreak, second chances, rebuilding. Liam watched her from across the stage at the annual gala, where she was about to speak. She looked radiant in a white silk gown, not the power suit she once hid behind, but something free, soft, real. When she walked up to the podium, the crowd stood, applauding. She smiled graciously and began. 2 years ago, I stood before cameras, not to save a company, but to save my truth. Back then, I thought success meant never falling. But now I know true power is in how you rise after you've been broken. Applause filled the hall, but her eyes found Liam in the front row. He mouthed, "Proud of you." And for a moment, she remembered everything: the heartbreak, the betrayal, the silence between them, and how love somehow still found its way through the cracks. Later that night, after the gala, Amara and Liam returned to their home, a modest yet elegant lake house surrounded by willow trees. The air smelled of pine and soft rain. She slipped out of her heels, curling her toes against the wooden deck as she watched the moon ripple over the lake. Liam came up behind her, wrapping his arms gently around her waist. You know, he whispered, I still remember the first time I saw you cry in that boardroom. I wanted to fix everything, but you didn't need saving. You just needed someone to believe in you. She leaned back against him, smiling faintly. And I got both, love and belief. He turned her gently to face him. I was thinking, maybe it's time to build something new together. Not just a business, but a life. Her eyes softened. You mean? He knelt slightly, not with a ring, they were already married, but with a tiny silver key. This is for the cabin up north, he said. Our getaway spot. Somewhere the world can't find us. Amara laughed softly, touched. You built us a second home? He smiled. No, we did. Every choice we made, every mistake, every moment we chose to forgive instead of flee, built this. She cupped his face lovingly. You've given me more than a home, Liam. You gave me myself back. They kissed under the moonlight, no cameras, no crowd, just two hearts that had fought for their happy ending and won. A year later, Amara's 36th birthday arrived. But this time, there were no press conferences, no flashing lights, no corporate events. Just a small backyard party filled with laughter, music, and family. Claire was there with her now toddler son, Ethan, running in circles around the garden. Liam carried a cake shaped like a golden heart, smiling mischievously. Careful, Amara teased. Last time you surprised me on my birthday, it nearly ended up on the news. He laughed. No secrets this time. Only love, and maybe a wish or two. As everyone sang, Amara closed her eyes for a moment. Her mind drifted, to the nights she'd cried in silence, to the day she stood before the world unafraid, to the moment she found home again in Liam's arms. She blew out the candles, whispering softly. For every woman who thought her story was over, may she find her next chapter in love. Months later, Amara's new memoir hit the shelves, The Price of Silence, How I Chose Love Over Fear. It became an instant bestseller. But what made her proudest wasn't the fame, it was the thousands of letters from readers who said her story gave them courage. During one interview, a journalist asked, "If you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?" Amara smiled thoughtfully. "I'd tell her that love doesn't weaken you, it refines you. The world may not understand your choices, but your heart always will." That evening, Amara stood once again on the same balcony where her journey began years ago, looking over the glowing city skyline. But this time, Liam joined her, holding her hand, their fingers intertwined. "You did it," he whispered. "You turned pain into purpose." She looked at him softly. "We did it." He smiled. "You know, the empire you announced on your birthday? It's nothing compared to the empire of hearts you've built since." She laughed quietly, resting her head on his shoulder. "Funny how I went searching for success, and ended up finding love." The wind carried the scent of jasmine through the night air. Liam kissed her temple. "So what's next, Mrs. Prescott?" She smiled, whispering, "Whatever life brings, as long as we face it together." The camera would have panned out there, two silhouettes framed against the golden horizon, hand in hand. Not just husband and wife, but partners, survivors, lovers who chose each other through every storm. Because in the end, Amara's greatest empire wasn't made of money. It was made of love. Narrator, soft, reflective voice. They said she came to announce her empire, but what she really found was her heart's crown. In a world that praised power, she proved that love is the greatest victory of all. If you believe in love that conquers betrayal, rebuilds trust, and never gives up, then don't forget to subscribe to Valentino Love Stories. Leave a comment below. Would you have forgiven someone like Liam? Or walked away to protect your peace? We'd love to hear your heart.